Hello. Oh my gosh, I love coming on here and being unscripted. Okay, so I'm gonna do some sharing, and I was in contemplation this morning and I was meditating about why people stay stuck and they don't even realize it. It's in their blind spot. And so I want to share with you today. So maybe if you're feeling stuck in your life and you're like, what is blocking me? You can start to exercise this and move forward quickly. So, if you're new to me, my name is Donnell Davis. I am a channel, a healer, and transformational mentor who specializes in future self embodiment. So, that is all about healing forward to have the love and success, health that you desire in the now moment, not way off in the distance. And I have a very proprietary method that teaches you exactly how to do that. I do offer free 30-minute get to know you sessions so you can learn about my work. I love to do a little quick, maybe pull a few cards or channel a little bit, but mainly it's so that we can connect and see if you're a good fit to be in my world and vice versa. So, this last week, I know we had the Capricorn new moon earlier. What was it, on Sunday? We moved into Aquarius. I just feel like everything's changing very quickly. The energy's shifting. And one of the biggest themes that showed up for me was looking at the structures and systems that weren't working in my life and having conversations around that. And it was in friendships, it was in my relationship, all different ways. And one of the things I noticed is in a conversation that I had last week is this thing that I call echoes of the past. And it's being in conversation with somebody, and maybe this has happened to you before, where you're dealing with something, but the crime doesn't match the punishment. Like the energy that the person is projecting onto you doesn't seem to fit the exact thing that's happening. And you're kind of like, where is this coming from? Why is this happening? And a lot of time people go into relationships or jobs or anything for that matter with the data of their past. That's normal, right? This is not an abnormal thing. But what occurs is that instead of the past being the raw material of your life, so you lived all these things, you've accepted that at the consciousness you were at before, that's why you made those decisions. You've accepted that your past is the very specific road that you needed to take to become you right now. So in theory, you have acceptance over the road that you have traveled in this lifetime. Okay. But we're all human, and as much as we may accept things, we have data of past relationships, past hurts, past betrayals, job situations where maybe you were laid off, or maybe you tried to show up in something and it didn't work out, whatever it may be. And it's fascinating to me how what if we're not paying attention, if we're not paying attention, what is the raw material and the data of the past becomes a living thing in the now moment. And so instead of operating just from the here and now, you're going back to the past and bringing that with you. And there's a charge, there's an energetic charge. So when I work with people and I do healing, I often notice where they're holding their energetic charge, where it is in their body, somatically speaking, right? We hold everything in the body and the fascia, all that kind of stuff. So there's a charge, and think of it as a snowball. It's like if you were like, for me, I could say like I used to have terrible relationships with men. Like that's just like me until my husband now. Like I've always picked very challenging people. Like I always picked transformation through my relationships, which means they weren't easy, whatever. So I've been betrayed, I've been cheated on, I've been with alcoholics. I mean, I could go on, and it's not about a pity party for me. It's just what I chose into in the past. And so I could bring all of that into the now moment and not be as trusting, be skeptical, all those kind of things. But I decided when I got out of my former relationship that I was not going to bring all that junk. Now I'm human, and of course, there's times where little things like, seep through the cracks, if you will. But I'm aware, I'm like, oh, there's me, like being afraid or whatever. So it takes a lot of work to notice where you're bringing the echoes of the past, or you could even call it the ghost of the past, and to not let it overly influence you. So if you think about why manifesting or creating the life that you wanted was so easy, maybe in your 20s and 30s, it's because you didn't. And so you might be in your 20s and 30s and be like, what are you talking about, Dawn? Trust me, if you're in that age group, it will be as easy as it is right now in the sense of you don't have enough. And I'm going to say this in a generalization. You don't have enough life experience yet. You haven't been through the divorces, the job layoffs, all the things. Now, I should say this generation has been through 2020 and had a lot more initiations than prior generations. But all that to say, later in life, you start to, get kicked in the gut a little bit from different things in your life. So I remember in my 20s making a promise to myself after backpacking around Europe for 6 weeks and going, oh my God, this is my calling. I love to travel. I wanted to be a not travel agent, a flight attendant. And God, my life would have been in such a different direction if that would have happened because I was like this close to becoming a flight attendant. But anyways, uh, I said to myself, I want to travel every 3 years to Europe. I want to do a big vacation in Europe because it was that important to me. And by God, I did it. I did it for like, I don't know. I did it again when I was, I went when I was 22. I went again when I was 25. I went again. It took me a little longer, but I went again around 30 and then I went again around 35. So I like did all these trips and then it just kept going. Maybe it wasn't always exactly 3 years, but like I've been to Europe so many times because I just love it. And it was easy because I didn't have any resistance. Like there wasn't someone or anything telling me I couldn't, I can't, right? I didn't have the data. So when you're a clear channel, so part of receiving is being a clear channel. And if you have all this data telling you otherwise, you start to form limitations, you start to form blocks. You start to let the voices of the past, the echoes of the past, be louder than the present moment. And this is how you start to block your blessings, your abundance, what wants to come into your life. I was talking to a girlfriend, and it's really interesting. She's one of my dear besties, and she's writing a book right now. And so I was reading a version of her book, and she has lived a really incredible life. And one of the things that really struck me, she started a vegan shoe line back in the day. And it was before anybody was really doing this. And it was like this whole story about her and her business partner about how they just went for it. And there was a lot of, things that happened along the way. And it worked out, but until it didn't, until the crash of 0708. And it was this story of just the tenacity, what I'm talking about, of this energy of like not being afraid just to freaking go for it because there's nothing telling you otherwise. And I just loved it. And it like made me feel so alive when I was reading it because I was like, yeah, I'm a little bit more mature. And I say that jokingly. I'm in my fifth decade, right? And so early fifth decade. And I have lived enough life to have been through a divorce, through a long-term relationship ending, through multiple layoffs, like a lot of things, right? I mean, that's just like touching. And when you have these situations, like she had this situation, and she's in her 50s as well. So she had this situation where, I'm reading this book and I'm like, oh my God, she's like such a go-getter. And now who she is she has all this evidence of like, yeah, I can go for something, but it doesn't mean it's going to necessarily work out. Maybe you've had that happen. Like I can go for it, but it doesn't like I've learned enough to know that like maybe it's not going to work out. And so how do you alchemize that storyline, right? And like have the optimism that what you want wants you to. So the first thing you have to do is you have to really clear that story from your body. You have to have such like joy that you were able to do it in the first place. Like you have to be like, God damn, I was a baddie. Like I did that in my life. I went for it. I remember going for a pharmaceutical sales position in San Diego in my late 20s when it was so insane. And it's probably just as insanely competitive now, but it was so insanely competitive to get a specialty pharmaceutical, which means you're calling on a specialty, not just like a general practitioner position. And I had to go interview and beat out like 100 people for the interview. And by God, I wanted it. I was like, I'm going to get it. This is mine. I was like doing all the pep talks and I got the job. I got the job. And it's that bravery to go for something, right? And to not lose and realize that as you get older, it gets a little tempered. You get a little bit more wise about things, but don't lose that verve that's like, I want it. I'm going to go for it and I'm going to see what happens. And the echoes and the ghost of the past, you have to tend to. So many of my clients, when I work with them, they're like, oh my gosh, yeah, this just didn't work out for me. Is it ever going to happen for me? And I'm like, do you want this? Are you willing to do the very things it takes? So when you're, I want you to first of all think of an area of your life right now where you know you want something really bad. Like maybe you want to like rise in your career. Maybe you want that relationship. Maybe you want your health, like you want to lose the weight or whatever it might be. Okay. Think of that area and think about what is the story that's been precipitated, like that came before this event of where you are right now. And I want you to ask yourself a really honest question. No bullshitting. I want you to ask yourself if you are really clear and neutral, or do you have a lot of attachments because of the way things were in the past? And I have this interesting gift of like when I'm talking to somebody and they're talking to me, I can literally see like the echoes of the past. Like I can see almost like an energetic like tunnel behind them of how much they're bringing into this now moment and how it's not just about what's happening right here. It's like, oh, well, this happened to me. My mom and dad did this, and then this happened, and I have all this external validation. And, here I am now. And it's not going to get you. It's going to, it's part of life where you're going to get stuck and you're going to bring in the past to the present. But your job is always to be masterful and manage the past like a bodyguard. Be like, no, 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 no. I'm not letting that into my club. Like you don't get to be in the VIP line. It's like you can't bring that stuff in and expect to receive miracles if you're holding on to all the ways it didn't work before, or all the ways that you've been effed over, or all the ways life hasn't worked out for you. You're already coming from scarcity and lack. So you have to pray to that higher power that you believe in. God, help me resolve this. Help me let go of this. Help me be a clear channel. Help me neutralize this energy. Who do I need to forgive? What do I need to let go of? So that I can come into this situation and just be open and see what's possible and see what I can do. And realize that you can change your story at any time. You are not just a foregone conclusion. I think so many people are like, oh yeah, I know exactly what's going to happen. It's like, no, 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 you don't. Not unless you are living the most boring fucking life ever. You should not know what's going to happen to you in 6 months. You should be excited thinking God could bring a miracle into your life, that anything can change for you if you are operating from neutrality, from excitement. You're like, oh, I have this dream and I have this really big dream right now that I'm working on, and I get really excited thinking about it, but I'm not like attached exactly to how it has to unfold, right? Like I have to leave space. And truth be told, I have some things of like that have happened to me in my career, way back when that didn't work or whatever stories. But I'm like, you know what? Who am I not to do this? Like, why not now? And so, if you can take the good of what you've had in the past and use that as fuel, if you can take the bad and use it as just making you wiser and be like, yeah, that didn't work out. What do I need to do to neutralize that? It's not even a bad thing if you actually think about it. Like, I look at something that just happened last year and I thought it was a bad thing. I was like, oh God, we didn't get that, that we were working on this investment and it didn't work out exactly the way we wanted. And I was like, oh my God, we didn't get the investment. Da, da, da. And now I look back, and if we would have gotten the investment, we would have been handcuffed to something that we didn't want to be handcuffed to. God had such a higher plan. We were being redirected. We were being so protected. But at the time, I couldn't see that because all I could see is like, this isn't working out. So even what you think is bad back in the day, you losing your job. Well, I look back and, I told you my pharmaceutical career because I lost my job in pharmaceuticals. And then I started to study and I wound up getting laid off, and it moved me into this work over time. It started where I was doing readings and intuitive work to intuitive healings after hours and on the weekends. And then, you know, that probably wouldn't have happened and I wouldn't have delved into it as much as I did if I had stayed in that career, because it was so demanding and I was making so much money. It wasn't about the money or anything about doing, I wasn't doing readings on the side to make money. I was doing it just because I loved it. So you look back and you start to realize even the things that were bad were not bad. And then that's when you can come at something and be like, well, yeah, I want to do this. I want to try this out. I want to see what's possible. So pray that you can clear the negative charge. Work with somebody like myself and heal those belief systems and those coping mechanisms that keep you choosing the same things. It doesn't have to be me, but like find somebody that's adept in working in those patterns, because it's the patterns that keep you choosing. It's those belief systems of like, I'm not safe. So you need to work somatically in your nervous system. You need to figure out the coping mechanisms and strategies you're using, because I can look back at my relationships. I told you that was an area where I had difficulties. Oh my God, the person that was choosing that was coming, I was in my wounding. I hadn't done the work around my history and my childhood and all that stuff. So I couldn't see where I was choosing from. I was just on autopilot. So when you really delve into this, you can change your life. You can bring things in and manifest things if you are a channel of receptivity, but not if you're stuck in the old stories and the echoes and the ghost of the past. Like, you have to be willing to change and rewrite the story, because otherwise it's density and it's a charge. So like, I said the snowball gets bigger and then the charge just sits there and it doesn't go anywhere. And think about something that's like sitting somewhere. If you were like trying to get through on a street and there's just a block in the middle of the street and you can't go past it, how can you receive more in your life if you're not even ready or willing to let go of what was? You can't. I mean, you can receive a little bit, but not the big things that you're looking for, right? Not the big evolutionary, soul changing, light your heart on fire type of stuff. So I really encourage you to just look at that area in your life and have fun with it. It doesn't need to be a thing, but like, I want you to have the things that you want. I want you to be able to create anew. And your greatest gift that you could give to your life is the ability to be flexible and fluid, be like water. Like, you can change at any moment. You can change and shift and flow and do the very things that will allow you to move through stuff, because the past, you cannot, I always say this, you can only serve one master at a time. You're either serving the past or you're serving the future. And it doesn't mean, I'm not talking about not being present, but you're either thinking about who you want to become and you're actively working towards that, or you're stuck in the past and you're still freaking focused on why shit didn't work out for you. And you're just like a victim loop, right? And I'm not saying it to be mean, but let's call a spade a spade. You're wasting your freaking time if you do that. You're not going to move forward. So let me know how this resonates. I will be back next week, and we have, I believe, the Leo full moon next week. So I'll be talking about that. But I'm curious to hear what you're working on and where you are in that process. And if you are looking for somebody to support you in moving through this and really becoming the channel to receive the life you want, don't hesitate to reach out and schedule that 30-minute session. And I will see you guys soon. Take care.